Welcome to the No Pressure, No Diamonds podcast, where entrepreneurs come to harness their struggles, doubt, fear, negativity, and setbacks. They place pressure on the blessing of adversity to become the strong, fearless, excited, passionate winner they were destined to be. A diamond.
Man, I'm excited.
Yeah.
You ready to go?
Let's do it, bro.
Yeah,
Intro
man.
us.
Hey, we're back once again. No Pressure, No Diamonds. My name is Alex. I got my boy
Thomas Solano.
Hey, man, we have a great guest here today. Tommy, go ahead.
You know what? I liked our guest from the get-go because he has we have the same name, man. We share the same name, and it's so funny. I asked him. I said, "Hey, you go by Thomas or Tommy?" He said, "Well, I introduced myself as Thomas, like because it's more professional, right? But my personality is Tommy." I said, "Man, I tell people the same exact thing. My personality is more of a Tommy." But no, I'm excited to have Tommy Martin with us, and you know, we connected on Facebook, and what I immediately was attracted to was his brand and you know, the kind of the mission of sparking conversations about, I'm a Christian, so our creator and our heavenly Father God, through his clothing and stuff. Faith defines us, and just somebody that I wanted to get a little more familiar and hopefully build a relationship with, for obvious reasons, you know, like-minded people, so to speak. But yeah, I'm excited to have you, Tommy.
I'm excited to be here, guys.
Awesome.
Welcome, man. Welcome. We'll kind of just dive in here real quick. So tell people a little bit about your background, where you're from, you know, so we can kind of, you know, and we'll start diving into some business stuff a little bit later. But you know, definitely give some folks a little bit about your background.
All right, cool. I grew up in the South. I'm a military brat. Decided that I'm going to join in the Army just like my dad. So I followed his footsteps. Served in the Iraq War and got injured out there. While I was injured, I decided to look into marketing. So I was like, hey, you know what? I'll be a marketing person. You see all these people on TV. You're like, okay, I could do that. Entourage. Okay, I could do that. Marketing is not like that, guys. So I went and got my marketing degree, and I started working with a whole bunch of companies, big and small, laying out their marketing plans, looking at their marketing objectives, stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, God just closed all the doors. I was like, okay, what's going on, God? You're closing all the doors. And he's like, well, you don't open up a t-shirt company. I started laughing. He laughed with me. I'm like, I know nothing about clothes. I'm like, if I see something I like, I just throw it on.
Right.
And God was like, no, man, look into this. And as me and my wife were walking our dog, the Holy Spirit actually dropped the name down to me. Faith defines us. And it was that moment when I realized it is our faith in God who defines who we are and how we act and how we should be. So with that name, I ran out. I got the DBA. I did all the checking accounts. I just ran in full force with it.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, God, I know what I'm going to do. So I started researching. I was like, oh, black shirts, white shirts are all in. I'm like, I'm just going to make black and white shirts with some sayings on it. And God's like, no, go a little bit more. So I was like, okay, hashtag with a name and a Bible verse. I want that word to have a relationship with his word. So I was like, all right, black and white. We can't go wrong with that. Well, let me tell you, what you research and what the world shows you is not always true. My black and white shirts did not sell like I thought they would. I'm like, okay, hotcakes, here we come. No. It was a very expensive learning curve on that end. Something I'm like, I don't think I should have went that way. But then again, I really didn't listen to what God was telling me. I thought I heard what he was telling me, and I said, okay, God, I got it from here. You can just hold on. And that's a whole pride thing.
Oh, you stopped listening.
Yeah, it's like, I got it. You gave me the idea. I have it. And that's the problem is when I started saying I. Because when you do a business, it's never about I. It's a we. You have to have people in your corner, you know, even your spouse, your friends, your families, whoever it might be. You have to have them in your corner. And God is the biggest person you can have in your corner. But when you shut them out and decide that I know what's best, you learn some costly mistakes.
It's pretty humbling, huh?
Wow. Yeah, man, that's interesting. But even going back is even having an ear for God to listen to
right.
In the beginning, right? Because I think a lot of folks will, you know, they might hear, but they don't act. Or, you know, they... Like, I'll do that later.
Well,
when I'm comfortable.
I think fear stops them, right?
Fear.
A lot of the time. So what was it that, I mean, obviously I'm assuming the fact that you knew it was coming from God kind of was maybe because I'm assuming you were a man of faith at that point, was all the push that you needed. But was there a little hesitation or a little reservation before you just went all in? Was there like some negotiating with yourself that maybe you had to do?
It's funny. I always wanted to do a t-shirt company, but there was always a hesitation. But when I heard this one, like I was a reborn Christian at that point, and when I heard God tell me, there was really no hesitation.
Okay.
But I had expectations, and that's the problem. Is my expectations were what I could see, what I can, look at, and that was the problem. The expectations. Like God could do the impossible, but I put a limit on what I thought it could be.
Yeah,
that's deep.
That is deep. Oh man, right? I had to lean back. Sorry, I had to lean back. Man, that's that's such a true statement, man. We put expectations on ourselves, our limits, on our beliefs. Where does that stem from?
I don't know. You want to take a crack?
You know what?
Where does that stem from? That's interesting.
We put God in a box. When you think about it, you're like, God can do this. Or if you see someone else experience a miracle, you're like, oh, God can do it for them, but not for me. And he's the same God he was yesterday as he is today. If he did it before, he can do it again. But we tend to put him in a box. We trust God with everything except for when it comes to money. We're like, okay, God, I'm going to trust you with my health, my situation, the season, the weather, whatever it might be. But the money issue, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but it's like, no, God, I got this. Once again, I got this. And part of our company is I didn't want to just do that. In order to change the world, we have to make the first step. So we decided that we're going to start donating a portion of our profits, like 20%. And we look at 4 different charities. We look at battered women, we look at children, and then we look at soldiers. And then we look at women ministries, stuff that we feel like we're led to do. And then
oh, wow.
I don't just like go, okay, this is a popular one. I'm going to look at it. I want to look at your numbers. I want to look at your reports. I want to see your tax returns. I want to see how much money you're putting in. And one of the best organizations that we deal with is called Soldiers Angels. And they help veterans, and also in all sorts of situations. But their return rate, I think for overhead, they use maybe 8 to 10% of everything that comes in. And to me, I was like, wow.
Wow, dude, that's amazing.
That's efficient.
That's amazing.
I mean, that they're on something when they're like, okay, 90% of everything that we make or we get, we're putting right back out. And to me, that's like, okay, that's a good charity because you want a charity that does that. And I understand that when we look at charities, people have to get paid. I mean, it's real. People have to get paid. Overhead has to get covered. But if you're spending like 50%, 40%, 30% for all your overhead and your people, you have to ask, why am I doing this? Am I being efficient? Because too many times you see companies that abuse that. And then you're like, okay, you're giving $1 for every $100 that you're getting in. So, but I feel like it's a responsibility on our part, and I'm not telling everyone that they have to do that, but I felt led to do that, God's blessing me with this great company and this great idea. I felt like, okay, it's my turn to bless people back if I'm able to.
I like that.
I do too. How long has Faith Defines Us been around? Like, how long ago did you start?
We first started in October of 2017, and then we became an LLC in November of 2017. Because I was like, okay, I need to be an LLC. Biggest mistake ever.
Why?
You don't really have to be an LLC unless you have a service or a product that can injure people. Most people won't take you to court for a shirt. Let's be real. But I was like, oh,
the liability.
Let's make this official. Let's have everything LLC. And now I owe the state of California every year, whether I make money or not. So I'm like, not the biggest decision on my part, costly mistake, but I'm in it now. We have trademarks in the LLC, so I have to keep it up. So it's no longer, something that I can.
You can't get out of it.
I can't, because, with the trademarks attached to the LLC, if I, dissolve the LLC, the trademarks are just kind of in limbo at that point. And you're like, I wouldn't recommend doing an LLC at first. I would say wait until you start bringing in some good money.
Yeah, I think the general rule of thumb, and I'm not an expert on it, but it's like 250, I think $250,000 in net profit, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
What are some of the things like it's just we were talking a little about this before, but what are some of the things about a t-shirt company or a clothing company that people don't know, that when you start a t-shirt or a clothing company, that you probably need to know these things when starting your brand?
The great thing to know about a t-shirt company, if you're going to start one, know that there are different types of material and fabric, and each one has a different feel. I recommend people get samples of everything, because then you know exactly which ones you like and which ones that feel good. I wouldn't go with for lack of a better word, the cheapest option, because the cheapest option won't bring you satisfied customers. No one wants a shirt. I wash it, dry it, and guess what? Now my nephew can wear it. No one wants that. You know?
Yeah, shrunk sizes. Yeah.
Right? It's like, okay, that was $30 well worth it. So I think
all my shirts have been shrinking for the last 20 years, by the way. I don't get it.
It's the cotton, depending on the cotton.
It's me growing.
That could be an issue too.
I'm blaming the cotton though. It's not the extra carne asada burrito.
It's polyester, man. Gotta add some stretch in that bad boy.
Yeah.
But it really comes down to researching, and then every year it's the colors. The colors will always change. It's not what's in today will be in tomorrow. Just make sure that you're researching constantly, and you're okay with testing out material. Don't just say, okay, I know the material, because that's a mistake I made in the beginning too. I was like, hey, I know this material. I love it. I'm going to go with it. So the first thing I ever did was go with cotton. I mean, I did a little bit of research, so I went with ring spun cotton, which is a little bit better than just the scratchy cotton, but still it had a little bit of shrinking to it. And I felt like, okay, I knew what I was doing, but don't just settle, get samples. It's well worth the money. I'm telling you, if you have to spend $100, $200 on the samples, it will save you in the long run of making costly mistakes.
Hey, measure twice and cut once, right? Yep. It applies across the board. That's awesome.
That's a big deal, man. Because I was like, that's just such an interesting, because people, like you said, they jump right into it, and then there's just finite, minute details, like you said, that can be caught. The most expensive mistakes are ones you probably don't make, over and over again. But wisdom comes when you don't make the mistake the first time, because you learned from somebody else.
Right. So true. It's funny that you mentioned the colors too, because off camera you had mentioned you went with black and white because it goes with everything, right? And it's usually foolproof. But I'm not very fashionable. You probably tell by my getup right now. However,
he looked good. Yeah,
I was just looking, man. I was just looking because we wanted to do surprise my mom with fall pictures of the grandkids. And my sister and my sister-in-law were like, okay, well, this fall the in colors for fall are like olive and rust. And I'm like,
rust?
Wait, what do you mean? For what do you mean? Isn't that a constant? Isn't it like browns and tans and oranges and stuff? And then so I Googled it, and it's like there's different color patterns that are in year to year. So 2021, those are the colors: olive and rust, and I don't know what other, about mustard of some sort or something like that. Like those are the in colors. I'm like, dude,
I have to get on my rust pattern.
I would always just go tan and brown and ugly green. But it's so funny. It's interesting that you said that. So I guess you adapt and adjust seasonally and annually.
Yeah, you have to. I think if you still have the same stuff that you had like 3 years ago, which it depends. If it is a popular item that people keep buying, of course, replace it. But have the colors that matter for that year, because it will make a difference. Like last year we had an orange, like burnt orange kind of, and we had a darker yellow mustard kind of in our hoodies. Sold out fast.
Dude, I seen that yellow hoodie, and that was hot.
So I mean, it's
I want one.
It's crazy because those colors. We were the only company with our competitors when we were doing events that had that colors. So we would have the event organizers come to our booth and actually buy them because they loved it.
Right.
And we're like, okay, it was something different, something unique. And remember, when you're doing a t-shirt company, be unique about it. Even if it's from something as small as a hem tag, have your label in the inside, have your website in the inside, and, make it a brand. Just don't use Next Level. You don't use that as your label. Too many people do that because it saves you money. Let's be real. Printing on one thing is a lot less expensive than printing on 4 different areas.
Right.
And so too many times you'll make that mistake. you'll have the next level. I mean, some companies can get away with it. There's a company called Valhalla, which is a veteran company, and they help with Mission 22, which is veteran suicide. They make a good shirt, but they don't ever replace the label. Their label is right here, but they keep the next label tag inside. And I think if you're going to make a brand, go full force, go all out. Let people know that this is not just a hobby. It's a company, it's a brand. Establish that. Make it a lifestyle brand. And I think too many times you're looking at the cost and you're like, okay, I can just skip this one. But if you skip that one, you already lost your first audience, because your first people who will buy it will recognize the brand. And we still have people who bought our very first shirt. We'll see them on the street and they'll run up to us like, I'm wearing my shirt still. I love it. It's my favorite shirt. You're like, great. I love that,
That's amazing.
And to me, that brings joy to my heart, because you're like, they're still wearing it 4 years later. They still have it.
Right.
And there's not many shirts I still have 4 years later. So
that's great. The thing about that, creating a lifestyle brand, creating a universe around, an encapsulated universe around just not the name. It's just not the name. It's, when I wear this shirt, it makes me feel this type of way, or, but creating a lifestyle brand. I like that idea.
Well, and then I love that you mentioned, like, you don't leave that next level tag on it, right? Like, there's something different about it. It separates it from their other next level shirts in the drawer.
Yeah, I mean, it's even with our hem tags, we have where our logo company's here, but then when you flip it inside, well, not this one, but on the newer ones, we have a Bible verse on there now. So the shirt out here, this is not for me. This is for the world to see. And there's been many times when me and my wife, we're just like grocery shopping, and someone will stop me and say, wow, I needed that word today. And I'm like, okay, Lord, I see what you're doing here. I think I'm buying Red Bull. And God's like, no, you're there for that one person. And we've had prayer meetings in Costco, Walmart, Target. I mean, you wouldn't think those would be the places that people would need prayer, but people have come up to us, and it was like, okay. So I look at this company as more than just a brand. It's like a ministry kind of. Like we have people asking for prayer. And then when we do events, we have people coming into our tent, giving us their testimonies, asking for prayers. But our competitors, they don't have that. We're the only tent that has that. So I'm like, okay, Lord, there's a lot more than just being a t-shirt. We're out here to change lives and hear people. Because when someone shares their testimony, it's a fantastic thing. Because you're like, wow, I'm honored to hear your testimony. And some of the testimonies we've heard have ranged across. And you're like, wow, the Lord has really worked on this person. And people feel comfortable when they're telling us that. And so I think it's more when you're doing something, go full force in it, make it your daily job to be that company.
Yeah. And not that you need it, but those situations, it sounds like just brings confirmation to the purpose, right? Like confirmation of purpose. And I needed to hear that word today, man. Like, it's such a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
And the success you're experiencing and are going to continue to experience, I already know, I see it, is in that it is serving something bigger than just a monetary gain, right? Like, there's a real purpose behind that. Man, I just love it. This is why I wanted to have him on here. But going back to your marketing, so you went to school for marketing. How has that served you here? It's funny, you mentioned, like you said, God closed all those doors, right, to give you a different purpose, obviously. But how has that translated over? Like, and where have you used that? And it sounds like you kind of answered that question, but if you go into a little more detail.
Yeah, so I have a 4-year degree in marketing, a 4-year degree in graphic design, and I double majored in business law. I wanted it all. I was like, I need to have as much information as possible. But marketing is always unique because it always comes down to the bills. How much can you spend in marketing? And some companies I worked with, their budget was like $100,000 every month. You're like, wow, I can do so much with that. But when you're running your own company, you really have to factor in, what is the cost for this? Where's my coming from? And then when you do the research, you figure out, is social media the best? Google the best? Where are my customers hearing me about? And so marketing has been a little bit, this is hilarious, difficult for my company. We've done the email marketing, we've done the social media marketing, the Google marketing. We have a lot of people come to our website, but the conversion rate is where we're losing them at. And I also think it has to do with clothing. No one knows how clothing feels online. You can see a shirt, you're like, okay, that model, they're wearing it great, but will it fit me? Because you don't want to ever buy something, you're like, okay. Because my wife, she shops all the time online. And all the time we're returning stuff because it doesn't fit right.
Right.
So for us, the marketing is trying to convince people that this shirt is exactly what you expected it to be. And I think that's the hardest part when it comes to marketing. I can have the best lifestyle shots, I can have the best branding, I can have it all, but it really comes down, how do you feel shopping at this store? How does that make you feel? Do you feel comfortable that you know that you're going to get what you get? And the cool thing is, we reach out to all the customers who have bought from us. They love it. We have repeated customers online that continue to buy from us because they love it. Mm-hmm. But finding, converting those people to stopping on it and actually buying is the part that I've not discovered yet. And it's definitely a costly process because I'm trying different avenues, weeding things out. But marketing right now has not really helped me on that aspect, because it's, how do I determine their buying objectives? But when it comes with clothing, I really feel like it's one of the hardest things. Unless you have a brand that people know, unless you have a following already, you can make that. But if you don't have a following and you're just coming out with a plethora of different other companies, how do you distinguish yourself from them? Because, and I hate to say this, but you look at Kanye's West Christian clothing stuff that he has, and he has the cheapest stuff ever, but they're the most expensive things. His sweatshirts range from $250 up. But he uses Hanes, but people know because of the brand, because of who he is.
Right.
So he has that. So when people come to Faith Defines Us,
uses Hanes. That's not even good enough for my drawers.
That was that Michael Jordan Hanes, like the commercials.
There's probably, listen. And so when people come to Faith Defines Us, it's for them to go, wow, can I trust this company? Am I going to get what I'm getting? Do I expect the same thing? And it's hard to convey that, because clothing is such an opinionated thing when it comes like it's different for everybody. You can't just do a mass marketing thing, because what works for you might not work for him, might not work for me, might not work for anyone. Sure. So it's been a very difficult process with the marketing, which I thought
testimonials, man.
Well, shoot, like one of the things is one of the hardest things for any business really is to figure out the cost to acquire a customer. Whether it's through marketing, that's one of the hardest things really to figure out is, all right, what is it costing me? And especially if they have a product that they're selling. It's like, okay, I need to get my cost to acquire this customer once we figure it out, we need to figure out how to get it down as cheap as possible. So we can, that the business can run, efficiently. But figuring it out can be quite a tough feat. But the good thing is you're trying different ways to do it. Some folks are like, all right, try this way. All right, I'm done and do something else. But the thing is you're knocking on doors and really trying to figure it out. Which is it shows your fortitude. It shows, that you believe in what you're doing, and we're just going to find a way. We just got to find a way, man. But I was going to ask a question too. How did you figure out Faith Defines? Just like what actually got you to come up with that name and the brand? How'd you figure that out?
It's funny when I first started, when God first gave me the idea, I was just running around with, throwing out names. I thought I knew what the name was, but it was when I was walking with my wife when the Holy Spirit said, "Faith defines us." And the more I started thinking about it, I was like, wow, it is our faith who define who we are. So we decided that was going to be the name, that it's your faith. And there's a lot of people that can misconstrue that and use it to whatever they believe in. They're like, oh, my faith in my dog defines who I am. I was like, okay, if that's the route you want to go, I can't argue with that. But, it's really our faith. We believe in God. We believe that Jesus came. We believe that he's a savior. So it's our faith in him who define who we are. And it defines our actions, if you think about it. Like, absolutely. All our actions should reflect Jesus. And too many times, we definitely let our flesh get in the way. Look at the 405 when we're driving at night. Sometimes, I hate to say it, I might not be the best Christian ever. I'm like, Yeah. But,
guilty.
In every action, it's like in every action that we do, our faith has to define who we are. So even if we're in a difficult situation, it's a situation we don't even want to be in, we have to let our faith define who we are. So I felt like that was the brand who we are. That's how we distinguish ourselves from other companies. It's our faith. And in order to confirm our faith, we have to have the Bible verses that go along with each shirt. Mm-hmm. So with each word, that Bible verse comes along. So it's just reiterating our faith. once again, in the Word and how we approach it. And this is for the world to see. So when the world sees it, they can say, okay, what is that? What is that Bible verse? And it might plant that little seed in them that goes, you know what? I'm going to look online, check that out. And that might lead them to read more of the Bible, figure out. And then who knows? They might end up discovering who Jesus is and who God is. And that's the whole point of what we started with our slogan, start a conversation about God, with a t-shirt.
Yo, I love it, man.
Isn't it so? It's cool, man. I seen the ones that said redeemed too. What was the idea behind that? Because the majority of them say faith defines. I think those are the only two.
No, we have faith defines us. We have blessed. We have
blessed. I seen that one.
We have child of God. And then redeem comes across as, too many times when people think of redeem, they think, okay, it's made better. But that also applies to us as Christians. We're redeemed through the blood of Jesus. So by being redeemed, we can actually go out there and walk. It's like being born a new man, as we call it, a reborn Christian.
Sure.
We all have our struggles and our journeys, but you're always going to be redeemed. You're always going to have that feeling because once you accept Jesus, you're good. Not saying that you can continue sinning. That's not all what I'm saying. Too many people are like, oh, well, you said that. It's like, no. Being redeemed means that you know that you are a child of God. You can walk with a sense of purpose. You don't have to be like, oh, okay. Your situation will not define who you are. Your faith, once again, defines who you are.
Right.
Never let your situation. So we have redeem, and believe it or not, our most popular one is our Lion of Judah collection. It actually is.
Oh, I've seen that with the lion.
And it's made of 10 of God's names built into the lion. Like we designed it that way because God wanted me to have the Lion of Judah. And I'm telling you, when I first designed it, I was so eager to release it, and God kept telling me to wait. My wife's like, God's not telling you release it yet. And I was so eager. He made me wait 6 months. Talk about all the concerts and all the events that we missed with that. Talk about having patience and then saying, okay, I have faith that God's going to have it when he wants me to. And we released it, and it was our bestseller. And it is actually a lion. You can look at it from afar. A lot of people get confused. They're like, what is that? And it's a lion. And we did it with 3D ink. So you can actually feel the lion, and you can feel the words. You can feel the names of God. So it's made of 10 of God's names. Sorry, I'm just gonna
pull it up,
man. Show what it is, man. We'll get it up on the we'll show it on the pod too when we check it out. Oh yeah.
So those are just the cards that we send with them. So people and on the backside will let you know exactly what the names are and what they mean, because the names of God actually are the characteristics of God.
Wow, that's it.
So we know exactly what God is and who God is to us. He's our healer, our redeemer, our savior, our defender. He's our banner, our provider. And too many times we tend to forget that. So God said, make a Lion of Judah, which represents the Jesus. And he said, make it with 10 of my names. Now, the 10 of my names was a little tricky part right there. God gave me a little bit of leeway to pick a few of those names, but he wanted some of the main ones on there, like God is my banner, like the Lord is my banner. Healer, Jehovah Rapha, which means God is my healer. And too many times we might be in a situation where we're sick or injured and we don't call on him. We don't say, you are my healer, Lord. Jehovah Rapha, come and heal me. And, it really has to do with prayer when it comes like that. But when God had me design this, I was so proud, so happy. But like I said, the 6 months he made me wait, it really took that pride away and let me release it on his timing. And when I did, I'm telling you, it exploded. More than I expected to. I was like, wow, Lord, okay. So from that point forward, I was like, anytime you want me to release something, I will release it. Like we have designs that we have not released on the website yet that will be shown at this Saturday. We're doing Grace Fest, which is in Lancaster. So we're going to be premiering it there. And then we have this biggest item that I've not shown anyone except like my family, my wife, it's going to change the way the Christian apparel is. It's just going to change the way it is.
Changing the game.
We have to, it's if you're going to compete with the world, and as a Christian, you got to have something that people want. And I think right now, people need it. People want it. People don't know where to look. And I think
lost, wandering.
And then you start looking at other people to help you. Some people have put sports as their God. Some people have put money. Some people have put status. And it really reflects because they're lost. If you put God as your God and you put him as the highest, everything else just kind of falls in line. Not saying it'll be an easy life it is never an easy life. I mean, the world we live in. So we definitely have ups and downs, especially in business. It's always going to be ups and downs. And there's been points in my business where I felt like I wanted to quit. I'm not gonna lie. It's been those moments where you're like, it's the hardest. Like when we first started our Facebook, we had 2,000 followers. I was like really happy. Facebook canceled our account, shut us down completely.
They wilding out here. Whoa.
And talk about
for what reason?
I don't know. We had a lot of negative comments and a lot of people hating Christians at the time. Wow. And let me tell you,
that's been a forever thing, by the way. Well, 2,000 plus years, but
that was a really low moment on my part right there. I really felt like, wow, I'm going to give it up. I'm quitting. I'm done. This was it. And then my wife's like, don't let the enemy win. Don't let the enemy win.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Man, what a beautiful woman.
She is. And you know what? And the crazy thing is I spent so much money on marketing for that account, and they shut us down. We eventually were able to get it back, but we started at 0 followers again. So we had
all the followers were deleted.
Mm-hmm. So all the people that we were contacted with, all the people that we had prayers with, gone. And there's no way for me to reach it out because I didn't think about downloading the data. I didn't think about, okay, I'm going to keep this, because why would Facebook delete me when there's so much other things on Facebook that violates everything, that violates their commands or whatever, their rules, that's still going. We didn't violate anything. So I was like, this is interesting. But it was, I think,
it's the adversary.
It really was. And God used that situation to humble me because I was on the verge of quitting. I'm telling you, when you're like, I spent so much money, the business is not going where I want to go, I'm depressed, you start feeling all these lies that you start believing. And then, when you have that person there, my wife was just like, you can't quit. Don't quit. And I was like, okay. So I just got
that rock, man. That's big.
It's important because if you don't have that support system, it's hard to make it. Really is, because even I have family right now that isn't 100% supportive of what I'm doing. They're all asking me, is this a hobby? I'm like, I've been on here for 4.5 years, 4.5 years doing this. It's no longer a hobby, people. I invested so much into it. And they're like, are you sure you want to do this? And then I have other family members that just continuously buy from us. They're like, I love it. I want to buy. You're like, oh, this is fantastic. And they never ask for a discount too, which is, that's the family that really believes in you. When they're like, okay, I'm going to buy your product.
Well, they're rooting for you, man.
Full price, man. Never ask for a discount. And it's a good feeling, but I definitely think a support system will always help you in business. And I think when you start to fail is when you're alone, because you can't succeed alone. And too many times when you're alone, you start to believe a lot.
Welcome to the No Pressure, No Diamonds podcast, where entrepreneurs come to harness their struggles, doubt, fear, negativity, and setbacks. They place pressure on the blessing of adversity to become the strong, fearless, excited, passionate winner they were destined to be, a diamond.
You start to believe how you're feeling. You start saying, God is not with me, which is a lie. God is with you. He's for you. Are you for God? Are you with God? It's a partnership. I always tell people, it's a relationship. You have to have a relationship with God. Just don't call on him when the bad things are. Talk to him when the good things are happening. And
I think sometimes, I read something, and I'll butcher it if I try to quote it, but and there was a lot more detail. But I think sometimes people question God, and that's the problem they have with Christians. When you have a strong Christian who just thanks and gives praise to God for everything, from the cool breeze on their face when they're feeling warm, right? You have those type. And then you have people that are like, no, I asked God for strength, and then I got all these freaking challenges, and everything got flipped upside down. I'm like, that's the blessing, and sometimes blessings don't always show up in the way we expect them. You had mentioned that word earlier, expectations, right? And I think there's so much power in understanding or holding strong in that faith that you'll start to recognize the blessings even when they come in a way that you didn't expect.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because people always think that God's going to come in a big boom. He's going to just scream it from the, you're going to see it in the sky. Right. You're right. Tommy, do this. You're like, yes. It doesn't work that way. You have to really tune in and listen. And you'll hear it. You'll feel it. You'll feel it in your heart. You'll feel it's the right thing to do. But you're right. Too many times people will ask, help me through this situation. Give me strength. And the situation is there to build the strength.
Right.
But we don't realize that because we want it to be easy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
as we all know, life will never be easy regardless of how we look at it. But it can be better when you start having a better approach to it. And I think that's the whole thing with the company too, is that we want to make sure, give people hope that there's more to it.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, when you tune in and listen, it's almost, it's like a lot of folks are just on the wrong channel. You know what I mean? Like,
100%.
Like a lot of folks are listening to the channel with all the static on it, man. They just gotta
The white noise.
They're listening to the white noise and like, man, the guy's not hearing me. I'm not hearing anything. I don't know what's going on. And it's only because a lot of times we come when things are all awry, things are all up in air, and things are, aren't going your way. And when you, and it's, God's like, man, really? For real? Again? For real?
Yeah.
I heard you for 6 months. I heard for 6 months, Alex. What's the deal?
I'm guilty of it.
Same. And it's just when you have that open relation, we just have that open communication with God constantly and all the time. Just in the middle of the day. It's now you're starting to hone in and tune in and starting to really hone in on that channel. And now that voice is more apparent to you.
The more you hear him, the more you reach out to him, the more you'll be able to recognize his voice. And I think too many times people want to stand still and say, well, I'm not moving until God tells me to move. And God's over there saying, whenever you're ready to move, I'm here with you. And we're stubborn. We're like, I'm not moving. And my advice is in business, in life, and in anything, take the first step. Take it. If you never take that first step, you will never leave the situation you're in. You'll never, ever advance into the next season. So when you're sitting there saying, I'm only do it when God tells me to do it, God's like, I'm telling you, trust, take the first step. And it's kind of with my company.
Walking that faith, right?
I'm like I said earlier, I always want to do a t-shirt company. I had all these great designs, great ideas. Never had the ambition to make it past the design part. Never even did that. But with this company, the moment I found and got the name, I was like, okay. I ran out the next day, went to the courthouse, filed the DBAs, put in the newspaper, put everything I had to do, and just got it started. And I was like, wow. Bought the domain, the website, the emails, everything. I put down so much money. I'm like, I'm doing it, God. I'm all in, which is good. It was a great feeling. But then,
how much did you put down, if you don't mind me asking? Like, what did it cost for you to get this thing started?
Oh, wow. If we're just in a roundabout number, about 10 G's the beginning.
Okay.
And that's not constantly what I'm, but it's, everything that you had to get started, the merchandise, the, partnering depending, because we don't have our own screen printer because, well, we live in an HOA and that's forbidden. So I would partner with local companies in Santa Cruz and I'll build that relationship. And they would, all designs were done in-house and I would go with them so they can also have a business, so they can also make a profit. So we would go with them and partner with them.
Share the wealth.
And I felt like that was a great way. And it was getting the word out to people that needed the word. I always felt like we were at the right place at the right time for people to actually have the word written. So if you're screen printing our stuff, you're going to have the word seen on there 500 times, 1,000 times. You're like, okay. It's going to be burnt into your brain. And you're like, I need to research this. What does this really say? And then you're like, wow, it says exactly. So I think now we're moving in a different path because I have a level of expectation again. But I look at my stuff and it has to be perfect for God. If I'm designing a shirt, I have to have it perfectly designed. I don't want crookedness. I don't want, and in human nature, things happen.
Absolutely.
Things get messed up. But I feel like I'm repping God. I'm repping his kingdom. So in order for me to do that, his perfection, I'm going to try to get it as perfect as I can and how it should be to represent him because, he deserves that. And I think if I'm just going to half it, like we've had some companies that just really did us wrong in the beginning too. And that's another advice. Make sure who you're partnering with. Look at their work. We met this guy, great guy, nice guy, but then the way he produced our stuff was bad. And we're like, I can't sell it because you have an expectation not only for God, but also your brand.
Sure.
You don't want your brand to be like, okay, I should have bought that at the outlet. You don't want no one to say that.
Right.
You want them to feel like they're getting the worth that they're paying.
Yeah.
So I always think, make those partnerships. And some of them will last, some of them won't last. You know, it's just all part of business. And especially with God, he's been closing my doors. He's like, dun, dun, dun. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to have to start doing it myself. I realized that was going to happen, but, you know.
It came sooner than expected.
It did, because now we're looking at a bigger expense. And I'm like, wow, Lord, you want me to buy that? And I'm like, that's only on faith that I can do that.
Right.
Because it's so many different avenues. And once again, it's always about producing the best you can. Never settle for something that you're like, because the moment you settle that for your brand is the moment you shouldn't be doing it anymore, because you don't even care.
Right.
So why do you expect customers to care?
Right.
That's big right there. Taking pride in your work, giving the best product possible, and people know when you've invested in your business. Seriously, like people, take it, especially in our field too. Like people, like clients know, like, hey, we put these portfolios together for clients and stuff like that. They're like, oh, well, dang, this looks for real. This looks, man, thank you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're giving it to them. People are like, wow, this is amazing. But then you just throw it on like a little piece of paper, a little handwritten piece of paper, like, yeah, I mean, that's your portfolio. You know what I mean? They're like,
a ripped out notebook.
They're like, but when your clients see that you take what you do seriously, then they're like, well, you know what, sure, I take this seriously too, man. And they wear your shirt with more pride, it's huge.
Dude, that obviously applies in like a tangible product, but it also applies to us, right? And us working on us, and you working on you, and your presentation of like, one thing that I know everybody's going to get from this is that Tommy is sold out and believes in the mission of spreading the word of God.
Yeah.
Like that is 1,000% obvious. And I don't want to assume and say that you've worked on that, but it shows that there's been some work put in.
It's definitely a work in progress.
Sure.
I can honestly say in the beginning of my Christian life, back then, I wasn't the best. I questioned everything, and it was so funny. I was the person that questioned everything. I'm like, why is this? The book was written this way. It was written by, all these stupid questions. And then one day, God met me. Those questions were not answered, but guess what? They did not matter anymore. So it's always that work in progress. Never feel like you're a bad Christian if you question something. Never feel like you are a failure because someone else is, quote unquote, a better Christian than you. Never compare yourself to someone else. Your journey is going to always be your journey, no one else's. And enjoy the journey. Enjoy the struggles. I'm telling you, I look back, I'm like, wow, that struggle made me better as a better businessman, as a better, husband, as a better person than if I didn't enjoy it, And each struggle will show exactly who and what your character is.
Right. No pressure, no diamonds, baby.
Right. We have a mentor that says like, how he approaches everything is this happened for me and not to me. And so when you talk about those struggles, man, if you have that perspective, you're almost forced to find the blessing in there somewhere.
Yeah. If you start looking at everything as a negative, I'm going to hate to say it, but your whole out view will be negative. Sure. Your whole look on life will be negative. Your whole look on your business will be negative. But if you look at, okay, that's a struggle that I have overcame, or that's something I can overcome, that's a positive thing. Now we're moving in the right direction. Mm-hmm. Too many times we want to be that person that goes, oh, I just quit. And I've been there before. I mean, it's human nature. Mm-hmm. But then you have to have the support and the fortitude to actually say, you know what, I'm going to get up and do it again. I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to look at the situation as a learning experience. Like I could have given up the first time I spent $5,000 on merchandise that collected dust. Right. You could be like, okay, that's it. Christmas gifts for the next 5 years for everyone. Right.
You know what you get for your birthday, for Mother's Day, anniversaries.
I mean, it's so easy to give up when we face failure. Yep. But failure is not always a bad thing. And too many times people think failure is the worst thing you could do. No, failure is only a bad thing if you don't learn from it. Right. If you don't grow from it. Failure is only a bad thing when you say accept it as a failure. I accepted my failure as a learning experience. Right. A very expensive learning experience, but nonetheless a learning experience. And it just made me a better business person. Now I have a better outlook. I have a different outlook. And I think too many times as a business person, you let your failures define you. Once again, the whole thing about defining, don't let that define you. It doesn't. Your past Your mistakes, the season, the situation will never define you.
Man.
Hey, you either win or you learn, right?
Hey,
We've heard
man.
that forever.
That's it, man. Man, I was gonna say something, man, but I was just taken aback, man. That was huge.
It was. You know what I was thinking too
huge.
is like, man, I've quit. I've quit for about 12 hours, right? I've quit for a day or two. And what has always brought me back is knowing what we, and when I say we, I'm talking about my wife and I, and our in our faith, knowing where we're going and what we're looking to accomplish. So you had mentioned, I know your wife helps you run the business, Shanae, yeah. How impactful has that been for you?
It's like having your best friend there with you. Like she is a prayer warrior. I'm not sure if you guys know what that is, but she definitely hears God. She prays for people. She gets words of knowledge. She is in it to win it. She's all for God, which is fantastic. And she helps me with every aspect. Like no decision is ever made by myself. I don't ever sit in my office and say, this is it. This is the way it's going to happen. No, I run it by her. And then sometimes we have her grandparents who are much older, but they're full of wisdom. We run it by them as well. Say, hey, how does this convey? How does this look? Because I never want to have like, okay, God gave me this. I know what I'm doing again, because once again, that's egotistical and you'll not succeed. So I run it by her. Every decision is made equally. It's not like, oh, okay, I'm the man. I'm going to make all the decisions. No, she's a vital part. So she helps in all the decision making. I ask her about the designs. How does she feel about this? How does she feel about the ads? Like even to how does she feel about us spending this much on this ad? So it's always a group process. It's never like me by myself ever making the decisions, because I feel like she's my wife. She's part of the business. Who am I to make all the decisions when she has equal share?
That's amazing.
It's bro.
That's how. Wow.
Alex is new to being married.
Oh yeah.
And I know he appreciated that message. I appreciated that message. Actually, I was slapped around by my wife a little bit, not literally, but when I first decided to, go after our business full time, because I started it very part time, and I had told her I'd put in my 2 weeks at the job and stuff, and she's like, "What?" I said, "Yeah, babe, I put in my 2 weeks," and I had that little bit of ego, like I'm the man, I'm gonna make this decision. She's gonna be excited about me making that decision, and she's like, "I really thought that you would have ran that by me first, right? Because this is gonna affect both of us potentially." And it was it was a slap. Like, what the heck were you thinking? You know what I mean? So I went back into work the next day. I took back that 2 week. I said, "Hey, listen, you can still schedule me. Like, I got to have a serious conversation with my wife." But it's been so good moving forward. And similar to yours and Shanae's situation, my wife is the backbone of everything that we do. She's the brains of the operation. She's more structured. She's more organized. Like her strengths are so much more like, and they're my weaknesses, and I got a ton of weaknesses, so she's extremely strong, but there's power in that partnership. And I love that you said that. Like, as a man, I'm sure she appreciates and respects everything you do as a protector, provider, presider, but probably respects more the fact that she's included in that process. It's such a beautiful thing.
It's even funny when God told me what I'm going to do, I ran it by her, because when you're married, you become that one, you become that unity. So it's never just my decision. Even if God's telling me she can support it or not support it, but, praise God that she knows God, and she's like, she supported it, especially when all the doors were closing. Like, I literally applied for 200 positions, and I had so much good feedback. People like, yeah, we want you. Come in for this interview, driving around, and then all of a sudden, silence. And that's when God was telling me, start this. And having that conversation is like, it's pretty scary. You're like, okay, wife, Shanae, we have no income coming, and God wants me to spend the money we do have for a t-shirt company. But
oh man, that's faith for real.
I was burning the boats, right? Like,
that's faith for real, dude. Yeah, that's big. That's big.
You're like, okay, we're gonna have ramen for the next few months. Yeah, but it was cool because she was on all board for it. And I was like, okay, cool. This is the way it should be. You should always include your partner, your spouse in every decision, especially a major one like that. So it's like, never there's never been a moment I can think of that it's been like, oh, this is my decision. I mean, there's moments where I thought I was right, and the cockiness comes out and like the pride comes out.
Yeah.
But then when you start listening to her side, you're like, I really did not mean to sound the way I sounded, and now I have to reevaluate everything. But it's good to have that, because without that backbone, without that support, I'd probably be making more mistakes than I am today, and I'll probably be nowhere near as successful as I am today.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't even have the company today because of that.
Yeah.
And I think too many times there's been friends that I've known that actually have started a company without their support of their spouse. And it's sad to see, because, this one guy that I used to work with back in the day, his wife never supported him, and he was always down. And just to see that is like, wow, it really affects you as a person if the person that you're married to does not support what you're doing. Now, I'm not sure how their conversation went prior or whatever. I just know that he would always say, she doesn't even ask what I do. She doesn't even interested in what I do. And you're like, wow. And they've been married for years. And you're like, wow, she's never asked. But once again, that's his side. Don't know her side. But, not here judging, but just reiterating having that support, your wife supporting everything that you're doing, and you're running by everything that you're doing with her to get her support, I think is a perfect union to have, a perfect unity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Such a big deal.
Oh yeah, huge deal. And having that conversation is a must. I'm kind of like what Thomas is, having that conversation, but also sometimes, man, even if you don't have that support, sometimes support can be purchased.
You can, yeah, for sure, right? With success, support can be purchased with money.
But before that, it just helps so much. You're really going uphill both ways. When you don't have that support, of course, it'd be way better to have that support.
Well, not only that, I mean, think about how much, like in those down times, how she picked you back up, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's been the biggest blessing. The other biggest blessing for me in having my wife is, I don't think I've ever admitted in my life before being married that I was wrong. And it was humbling, and I appreciated it because she was willing to have a real conversation. Like, when you have a good wife, you don't have a yes man, right? Like, let's think about this and stuff, man. And so, I'm just appreciative of your relationship and you sharing that with us, because it's confirmation of how incredible my wife is. Not that I needed it, but I got. We got some good things going. We got a good thing going, man. Tommy and Alex, because I know Tina's the same way.
Man. She just popped in just now. She just pulled in, man. She was like,
she
"What
kept
you want
the door
to drink?"
real quiet.
Yeah, she like, man, that's. Just notice the small things, man. I noticed that she's like, "Oh, the door didn't slam." Like, "Oh man, look at it." But just having a partner, a life partner that's that sees the vision, that sees the vision, and and willing to pick you up when you're down, give you those small words of encouragement. Cause they know what's going on, even though they don't know the particulars that's going on inside of our heads a lot of times. Because a lot of times they're like, I'm strong, I'll be fine. But they know when we're off a little bit, when we're hurting a little bit.
Yeah, you can't fake that with
heck no.
with the ones that are in tune.
No matter how much you try to fake it, you can't. And I think the thing that a lot of people have is it's really hard to be open too. To say, okay, you know what, we're gonna have this discussion. I'm gonna tell her what I'm going to do with our money, and now I have to can I expect what she's going to respond, or how will she respond? Like, is she supportive? Is she not? And it takes a little bit of courage, and it takes a little bit of humbling as a man too.
Sure.
You have to walk in there and say, you know what, pride aside, this is what I think we should do. How do you feel about it? Because you want to get their feeling too, because they can be all smiles and say, yes, 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 but inside they might not be. So I always ask my wife, how do you feel about this? Is this good? Not just say, do you like it? Yes or no? Because, yes or no doesn't help me. Why do you like it? Why don't you like it? Those questions, you have to start having more of a conversation with them. Right. So with her, I always ask, how does this make you feel? What do you think about this? Before I even give my whole full input, let me know your view of this situation. Then I'll tell you how I view it. And sometimes I never have to say it because she views it the same way I do. I'm like, okay, that's That's a great way of confirmation again about what I'm doing is right, because now she sees it. And then of course we'll run it by the family. They see it. And I'm like, okay, we're on the right path, And I think it's just, it's a needed thing.
Yeah, there's some alignment there. What's funny about that is the times where we have our best conversations is usually when I'm asking my wife her opinion. And I learned that through PCM. We took a course called Process Communication Model, and I realized just based on personalities, we tend to be very different, which is why I'm like quick to make decisions, kind of action driven. But I learned to start asking my wife, like, hey, what's your opinion? Here's my thought, but I'm curious, what's your input? What's your opinion? And she just lights up, and we have these incredible conversations. And it just feels good too, to see her happy and engaged and things like that. It makes me feel it's good all the way around. There's such an effect of including in that partnership. So
it's all about validation too. I mean, think you're giving her value to her opinion, and too many times it's easy to brush off people's opinion, because I have so many people tell me how to run a business. When you own a business, you'll have everyone say, you need to do this and this and this. And
especially people that don't have a business.
You know what you should do. You know what you should do.
And all you can do is just smile, because you're like, you don't think I've tried all those things. But I'm going to let them, because people want to try to be helpful. But, when it really comes down to your wife, it's all about value. I value her opinion, I value her opinion above others, Yes, she's good in certain areas and better in other areas. I mean, it's not saying that I had a business mentor. I would take his opinion too, but
sure.
Just with her opinion, it's validation. You're saying, I see you, I respect what you're saying, and I'm listening to what you're saying, because I don't know it all, and I'm hoping that you know it all, or you know part of it, that we can create a whole completed thing,
Sure.
instead of
unity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just for you all that are listening to this, that are, building a business or an entrepreneur, and maybe you're not married, and that's fine. But if you have a partner, that relationship and that knowledge that Tommy's dropping right now can be applied in the same way across the board, whether you're a majority owner or whatever the case may be. Like, that relationship and that validation that comes with that, it's powerful. Like, that's a nugget that he's dropping that I hope, nobody's overlooking.
Keep open lines of communication, man. Always keep open lines of communication. Doesn't matter how you're feeling.
Well, when you create a team, right? People, it's inclusiveness. Everybody brings something to the table.
I think you should also be open with your struggles and your failures. And, and with my wife, we're always open with the finances. We're open with what we're dealing with. I mean, sometimes it's she has a pry out of me, depending, I have
how much that 3D ink was.
But it's always about, like Alex is saying, open communication. You have to have it. If you don't have it, then you already lost. Because that helps run a business. Yep. And I also always agree, listen to everybody. Just because you might own the business does not mean you always have the best idea.
Right.
Because the person that has the smallest position might have an idea that changes everything. So right now it's just me and my wife, but I listen to her grandparents. We talk things through. But I always told myself, once we start having employees, I'm going to listen to them, because how they view something might be something I never even seen. So when you're talking about open communication, have it with everyone. You never know. The janitor might have the idea that could save your company. Never exclude anyone, and never look at someone below because you're the CEO, because one day you are, but who knows what tomorrow will bring. And then maybe in the past you were the janitor. You have to think of these things, value people's opinions. And I think when you start saying, oh, I'm the boss, I don't have to listen to anyone, you lose that. And it goes with anyone, your wife, your friends, your family, whoever you have that open line. Be willing to listen to ideas. Now, when someone just throws out something, like I was saying earlier, like you should do this, this, and this, especially when they don't own a business, you're like, you just smile, But when you have employees and mentors, listen. Yeah. Listen to them all. And you would be amazed by some of the people that were just our customers we listened to and changed everything.
Absolutely. That's that. Listen to your customers.
Right. They'll tell you what they want.
Absolutely.
They'll give you clues.
Every time. And that's about just knowing the pulse of your business, right? Knowing the pulse and not being so disconnected, and, that's Pride can create that too. you know,
100%.
to where, like you said, I'm the boss. I got this. I started this. It was me that put the, you know what I'm saying? And that can get conflated. But just knowing the pulse of your business, man, that's a huge point.
Yep.
Because you don't want to lose track and lose touch. And the people that do have touch, can take your market share very quickly. The people that do actually have touch. And then now you're on the outside looking in. So, man, you talk about a gold
mic
bar.
drop.
Yeah. Talk about a gold bar.
Yeah,
that was fire, man.
That was really good.
That was cool, man.
Tommy, I'm curious, man. What is the vision? What's happening in the next 5 years, 10 years with Faith Defines Us? What's your...
Well, like I said, Saturday we're going to be dropping something that's going to change the industry, and I don't want to expose it right now because I feel like I can't expose it just yet. But
sure.
I could probably tell you guys offline. But that's going to change how we look, how we view Christian apparel. It's no longer just going to be just a t-shirt. It's going to represent something. And I want to have it where people are walking around with the Word of God on them, because the Word of God will change you. So with that, it's going to start changing the atmosphere around us. Mm-hmm. And the more atmosphere it changes into looking at God as ultimate greatness, you're going to have a different kind of world. You're no longer going to be judging your neighbor because they don't mow their grass, or they mow their grass at 6 a.m. or whatever it might be. You might just looking at them with love, because that's what we're taught to do. So
maybe you go cut their grass for them rather than judging them for not having to cut.
You took it one step farther. Yeah, I like it. But I really see that this company is going to start producing things that are really relevant. Right now, I know God has been putting on my heart a lot of different changes, like doing our own printing, our own sourcing, even eventually designing everything from the material, building the shirts from up. We're in talks with that too. But I know that whoever God places me with, there's a reason for it. I might not understand the reason, and they might not be the most cost effective, but there's a reason, and I trust God when it comes down to stuff like that. But with this company, it's just going to get better, and I feel like by doing what God is telling me to do, there's no way I could fail.
Sure,
I could fail if I put my pride in front of it, which we can always fall with that, but I never want to do that. So with this company, we're changing the way that Christian apparel is addressed, the way it looks, the way it feels. Even when we first started, we changed everything. Christian apparel was always, if you talked about Christian apparel years ago, it was always scratchy, itchy, and it shrank, and it had like these big designs on them that no one would ever wear. You buy them at the Christian bookstore, you're like, oh, I love it, I'm gonna throw it in my drawer, never had to see it again. So we wanted to change that whole idea. So when we first started, which is why fabric is important, which is why we did the tri-blend, because it's the most soft, it's the softest fabric out there, most comfortable, lightweight, and it just does not shrink. So we pride ourselves on always trying to be that step ahead. Whatever's changing, we're looking at that. And the whole thing is, even if it does cost me more, it still does not mean that I'm going to raise my prices more to adjust for that. I'm going to always keep it to where the market is, because I feel like our customers deserve the best. And if that means I take a little bit less of a profit cut, I'm okay with that, because there's a reason that I'm doing it. Mm-hmm. And I look that we're just going to be in a place 5 to 10 years from now. This is what I feel like we're going to be in a place where we're going to be able to help sponsor small businesses, be able to help them with funding, help them with resources. This is what eventually we're going to look to be doing. We're going to be a trend center. We're looking to expand operations, and we definitely want a brick and mortar store. I think that's needed. Too many people are doing the online stuff, but a brick and mortar store is where you have fellowship, where you have encouragement, you have, just everything that you're missing, that human connection, and the way that God wants me to design it changes the way a brick and mortar store will look, especially for apparel. So I think we have a lot of good plans, just got to keep the faith, and that's where the enemy likes to attack you. When you know that you're going to hit that star, the enemy's going to start whispering lies. You can't do it. You don't have the money. You don't have the support.
Putting
you're
that doubt out there.
And, it's so easy to believe those lies, especially in the hard moments, because the next 5 years is not going to be rosy. I definitely know that. It's going to be some struggles up and down. And that's when the enemy or the haters, we like to call them haters too, will start just knocking you down, saying, I told you you're going to fail. I told you you're going to do this, but never, ever believe them. believe what God has told you. And if you don't believe in God, believe in what you've told yourself. You know, you have to have something that gives that gives that drive. Without that drive, you just might as well just don't even do business.
Absolutely. Ooh.
Trust your gut and stick to it.
Man, have to, man. You know, like I was saying yesterday, man, got to stand on your square, 10 toes down.
Yep. Hey, stay planted.
You know, I love it, man.
I love it. I love the vision. Yep. I love the vision. I love the goals of helping smaller businesses, bringing back brick and mortar. It's interesting because I've recently, especially after COVID, man, I felt like brick and mortar is not where it's at. You see all of these vacancies in the malls and stuff like that, but everything comes back around, and so and you have a better understanding of it because you guys do pop-up events, right?
We definitely do pop-up events, and right now the brick and mortar is hurting, but it's going to come back. I mean, there's that human connection. You can buy anything you want online. Yes, COVID let us have things delivered every single day. Trust me. Amazon's my best friend, apparently. Or at least my wife's best friend. Sorry, wife.
Right.
But the brick and mortar is where we make a change. It's where we make a difference,
The connection.
Imagine how many times back in the day you walk into the store, everyone's so polite. Hey, how you doing? If you need anything, just let me know. What can I help you with today? Now it's like, what do you want? I'm sorry. Just walking by. But we have to change that atmosphere. And especially as Christians, if we can bring back stores that have a purpose, that serve a purpose, there's going to be more of a connection too. Because right now, COVID has really disconnected us, 100%. Even though it's connected us through technology, but it still has disconnected us. And I think brick and mortar stores will change that with the right kind of stores. Now, your generic stores won't change anything because they're generic, but a store with a purpose, a store that has a meaning. And I really believe there are businesses out there that have a purpose and a meaning, but they're just scared to start that brick and mortar. But I feel like in my gut, that's where I want to be, because the vision I have for it, the vision God has for it is going to be amazing. And it's just going to be a fellowship. It's going to be where people can connect with one another while shopping, something that we've been missing for a long time.
Well, and that was the thought that I forgot to bring up when I mentioned that. Like, why I know that you're going to succeed is you mentioned that word fellowship. Like, if there's something special is going to happen inside of those four walls, and I see you changing the game, man, for real.
I love it, man.
Right,
man, I'm excited, man. I think this is just a great learning experience too. There's a lot of a lot of nuggets that was dropped here today, and I'm just excited to create a new friendship, man. A new friendship here, and I'm excited to see your success.
Thank you.
I'm really excited to see your success, man. Where you're going, but where can people find you? So what websites? Where are we at? Instagram? Where are we at? So where can people find you online?
We're all across social media. Our website is faithdefinesus.com. You go to our social media, Facebook and Instagram is Faith Defines Us. We have TikTok, Faith Defines Us. So just search in Faith Defines Us and all our stuff will pop up. I mean, you cannot go wrong. That's the blessing about having God on your side, is you could type in Faith Defines Us and we are the first 5 big searches out there. So you can't go wrong when doing that.
Perfect, man. Yeah, so we'll make sure if people go, it'll pop up up there or on one of these little parts of the screen here. You'll somewhere see it. It'll pop up, man. But hey, any closing remarks, Thomas? Ready?
No, I loved it. I love the message. I love the vision. I'm looking forward to supporting. I visited the website and I'm like, man, those joggers are hot. The hoodies are hot. The pullovers and the zipped ones, and they've just got incredible gear. And I'm excited for my wife to take a look at it too, because she's very active as well. And the stuff for women just looked incredible, man. It's funny that as a male, I felt weird noticing that, but I'm like, dude, the women's stuff is fire.
That's sick, man. I'm excited for it.
I'm excited for Tommy Martin, or Mr. and Mrs. Martin, right? Tommy and Shanae, and what they're going to be doing.
It's a blessing, man. So we'll definitely go ahead and put a link in the description so you can go on the website. You can purchase whatever you see fit to purchase, and go support support the brand, support the cause, man. It's going to be amazing. But shoot, but just remember to like, share, subscribe. post notifications, click those bad boys on, the little ding, and we're super excited to have you with us, Tommy, and hopefully again as
Thank
well
you
down
guys
the
so
road.
much.
Yeah, it was our pleasure.
Absolutely.
I got so much from it.
It was sick, man. I'm excited. I'm definitely logging into the website now for sure.
Yeah.
But hey, without no further ado, no pressure.
No diamonds, man.
Let's get it.